Good morning, everyone. I am Devi Priya from Lakhireddy Valred College of Engineering, affiliated to JNTUK Kakinada. And today, the object of this session is uh, how to write the applications with the exception handling concept. Why we need to use the exception handling. Uh, and at the end of this session, you can able to identify, you can able to write the uh, your application with the exception handling concept, and you can able to identify what's the exceptions, at what situations the exceptions will be generated, and as well as if exception is generated, what the application will immediately react. If exception handler is not there, how the application will be working. If the exception handler is there in our program, how the application will be responded. All those things you can identify at the end of this session. And first, what is an exception? You know that exception is an error. So what type of error? Is it a syntax error or is it a runtime logical error? So exception, it is a runtime error. It is an error which will be occurred at the runtime. You know that syntax errors in the C language, every language have the syntax errors. Uh, if I am giving the missing up semicolons or double quotes not properly closing up quotes, single quotes or double quotes, not properly closing the braces, then it will generate a syntax errors. But if my program have the syntax wise, if my program is correct, and even that due to certain input wrong or bad or logically incorrect input if I have supplied to my application, then in that case runtime errors will be generated. So here we have already in these two examples will be there. If I am trying to divide any integer number by 0, then it will generate say runtime error. If I am trying to declare any array with an integer size, in that case also it will generate say runtime error. So at the time of compilation, we know that Java is a two-phase system. One is compilation phase and the second one is runtime phase. At the time of compilation phase, even the runtime errors are there, it can't identify. At the time of runtime, the JVM will identify. If there is any runtime errors are there, then immediately it will checks if the runtime error is there in the program, and if you are not using any exception handlers for that runtime error, then immediately the program will be terminated. So we can see that we have identified that okay, due to the logical problems wrongly given input, the runtime errors will be generated, and that runtime error is comes as a exception. Okay, what happens? The second question is what happens when an exception occurs in your program or in your Java program or application? If there is no relevant, there is no proper exception handler is there, so immediately the program will be terminated. At which line the exception is generated, at that line the program will be terminated immediately. That will be happen when the exception is occurred. So the program will be terminated immediately if there is no relevant exception handler is there in my program. So now let us see some examples how the exception will be generated. You can see that I have declared in two variables int a equal to 10 and one more variable int b equal to 5, and I am taking one more variable c equal to a by b. In this case, so all the three variables are declared properly and there will be no syntax errors will be there. This is the case 1. I have taken a test case 1. In this case, there will be no syntax errors and the no runtime errors also there. So smoothly the output will be generated as output is 10 by 5. The 2 will be generated. And this similarly, I am taking the test case, another test case 2 with the same type of one. Yes, but instead of b value as 5, I am taking as a by 0. So which in turns, if you have identified that the 10 by 0, an integer, any integer number can't divided by, logically, it can't divided by a 0. So it will be comes under runtime mirror, which in turn generates an exception. Okay. In the test case 1, no problem, no syntax errors, no runtime error. In the test case 2, no syntax error, but there will be an error called a runtime error will be generated. No, yes. Another case we may take, another example we may consider, declare an array. Another an example we can consider, declare an array. So we know that you all know that how to declare an array. Various some uh, things will be there. So integer, the array name is ARR. Int array equal to new int of size. Yes, it will be syntax wise no errors and logical wise also no syntax error and no runtime error. Fine. In the same example, if the same case, if I have taken like, yes, what will be happen? It will be syntax wise, it will be everything will be correct, but from the perspective of runtime, so an array can't accept the negative value. An array can't take, cannot take negative value as size. So in this case, it will generate a runtime error. So we must be careful when we are writing the program. So not only focus on the syntax, we need to focus on what type of input we are giving. Okay. So further totally, so the Java supports excellent concept. So it will providing an excellent concept called exception handling also, because if there will be any abnormal input is there, so it immediately that input will be identified, that exception will be handled. Even if you are not at using the exception handling concept, internally the JVM will throw that exception which catches what is the exception will be raised, and in turn the JVM which throw what type of exception is generated in your program to the user. Okay, let us see with an example. So here I am using to execute all the applications. I am using the NetBeans IDE. It is an IDE 7.4. So here if you want to write any application, go to the first file, new project, select the new project, and here Java Web HTML will be there. Select the Java and Java application, click on the next and give your application name, exception example. So don't give the predefined class names. Okay, don't give as a exception, but you may have the chance to give as a exception example. I'm giving my class name as exception example. So the package name also exception example, and the class name is also an exception example. It will be come up with the pseudo code. No need of writing a main method again. Automatically the IDE will generate the main method also. Here we can write the application here. So I would like to declare int a equal to 10 and int b equal to 5, and take one more variable int c equal to a by b and print it as system dot out dot println of c is yes. So we have taken in a variable a, b and c equal to a by b and print the c value. So let us click on the right click and run file. Yes, it is an output window. I can enlarge this output window. What is the C value here? C is 2. C is 2 and the build successfully. There will be no errors. So here we have given the 10 by 5. The smoothly will be already we have taken the case 1. Case 1, so 10 by 5, the output will be 2. The same will be executed in this IDE. So A equal to 10 and B equal to 5 and C equal to A by 5 and print ln of C. So it will be, yes, the program will be executed smoothly. Nothing will be wrong. Fine. And now change the B value as 0. Int A equal to 10 and B equal to 0 and C. What happened? I can write it in the comments 10 by 0. So it will be logically wrong, not acceptable. So shall we check what happened? If there is any runtime error, what will be happening? So it will be something there. We can read. So I have compiled the program. I have given the 10 by 0. So exception in thread name. What it is? Java.lang dot arithmetic exception. Oh, okay. What the exception divided by 0? It will clearly, it is giving the clear information. So you have tried, you have divided an integer number by the 0. At which class? Uh, exception example class. Okay. And which method? Main method. Under the main method, so we have tried to give a name, try to divide a number by the 0. So which generates, very careful, when we are trying to divide any number by the 0, so for that it will not be acceptable, but further the JVM have predefined classes, that is java.lag.arithmetic exception. It will take that exception and raises that error to the user. Okay, java.exception lang.arithmetic exception. So when that meaning is, now I have identified, so whenever an exception is there, if there is no exception handler in my program, immediately the program will be terminated. Now let us take another case, that is second case we may take it, that is declare an array. Declare an array with array. First we can do the program without any errors. ARRY equal to, yes, just I don't want to give anything, just I want to print the, it is an intelligence, that's why what are the methods will be there, that will be printing array dot length. So what I am printing, the array size I am trying to print, size of array. I am trying to print the size of array. Okay, fine. And declare it an array, and I am trying to print that array size. Okay, now run file, compile, automatically will be compiled, then only it will be run. So check the output. What it is generating? The size of array is 5, because we have declared an array with the 5 size. Fine. So obviously it will be generating the size as 5. Okay, everything will be fine. And now I would like to change, yes, int of -5. It is syntax wise no errors. If there is will be any compile time errors in this, in the IDE, if you are using the command prompt, there will be a separate compilation and execution phases will be there. If you are giving any syntax errors, here itself it will identify with a red line. Have you observed that it will be generating? I am missing the semicolon. The program not yet run. It will generate an error called expected. Semicolon will be expected. Okay. And now again you may run. It will be no syntax errors. Then only it will be run. So it is something generating an exception. We will identify that. Again, the same as exception in thread main method we have an exception. What is an exception? Is it the same as earlier exception? No, it will be somewhat different. So the exception name is, the exception is also there in the package called java.lang package. And what is the exception name here? Negative array size exception. So the exception is not common for all the runtime errors. The exception name is not common for all the runtime errors. It will be different from one runtime to another runtime. So here the exception name is java.lang negative array size exception. Immediately what will be happen? So immediately whenever the exceptions are there, so it will be terminated. One is we have identified java dot lang dot negative array size exception and java dot lang dot arithmetic exception. So one is for division by 0 and the second one is for negative array size exception. So immediately whenever the exception is generated, so the JVM will throws the relevant exception name and the program will be terminated immediately. Okay. So two exceptions we have seen. So there will be like, is it two only? No, there will be so many exceptions like array index out of bounds exception, null pointer exception, number format exceptions. So many examples will be there. Okay, fine. We have seen the two examples. One is for negative array size exception and the second one is for second one is for arithmetic exception. Both cases we have a clarity. And now you have so these two will be identified now. What's an exception? Okay, with clear idea. What happen when exception is there? If there is no exception handler will be there, immediately the program will be terminated. And now how? Okay, how to handle that errors? How can I continue that normal flow of execution? Even the runtime error is there. Skip that code. Skip that. We can't remember one thing. Exception handling is a mechanism to handle the runtime errors. That meaning is it can't change the runtime errors. It can't change the input. That can't be possible. But instead of stop the application abnormally, it will continue the application flow. Even runtime error is there, so it will continue. That code will be skipped. That part will be skipped and remaining code will be executed smoothly with a mechanism called exception handling. Very important. It's a powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors. When the runtime error will be occurred, it will skip that part and continue with the some other part. The program will not be terminated, but it will maintains that normal flow of execution. So what I need, so to incorporate exception handling mechanism in my application, is there any special keywords will be required? Is there any special thing will be required? Yes. So to incorporate an exception handling in your application, we need to use certain keywords. We need to use some other blocks. So the exception handling related keywords are, so try block, catch, throw, throws, and finally. Very important. So if you want to write if you want to write any exception handling applications, so you can use these 5 keywords. So again my question, all these 5 keywords are compulsory? No, no need. You can use try catch, or you may use try catch with finally, or you may use try with finally block also. But minimum try will be required with a try with catch, a try catch with finally, a try with finally block also. What about throw and throws keyword? It has separate meaning. To raise our own exceptions, to generate our own exceptions, then we can use the throw keyword. And to handle the checked exceptions, that is some other part. To raise the checked exceptions, to give the information related to the checked exceptions to the compiler, then throws will be required. Okay, so these are related to these 5 keywords are try block, catch block, throws, and finally block. These 5 related to the uh, exception handling keywords. And today we can focus on try and catch block. So it is a block. It is a block. So try is a keyword, open brace and closed brace within this block. So if you are thinking that certain code may generate an exception, you may put that code in the try block. Again, I am telling that if you are thinking certain code like int a equal to 10 by b, it may generate an exception. So then if you are thinking certain code may generate an exception, that code you may put in the try block. Okay, and catch block is if an exception is generated, I have given the b value as 0, then the program will be stopped here and the control will be go to other part. The whenever the exception is raised, the control will be go to the catch block. So that is the relevant exception handler for these exceptions. Okay, so if the exception is there, uh, then who will take care about that exception? That I can put in a block called catch block. Is it only a single exception in the application? No. So identify all the possible exceptions, identify at your basic idea, whatever idea you have. So based on that, identify all the possible exceptions and write. If there are five exceptions may be generated in your application. 5 can't be generated at a time. But in your application, there may be a chance of 5 different types of exceptions. Then you may give 5 catch blocks. If your application may generate 2 exceptions, then you may write 2 exception handlers in the block called catch block. So how can I write exception handler and object reference? What is the exception handler here? The exception handler is nothing but your exception name, like arithmetic exception. And here the exception handler is a negative array size exception. The exception handler is exception names. Okay, for that object reference. If there is exception, automatically the object will be thrown and it will be catched by this exception handler. Okay, so we will see the example with this. So what is the exception handler? The exception handler is like arithmetic. In the catch block, the exception handler name is arithmetic exception. So we already discussed the syntax like try followed by multi-catch block, catch of exception handler or exception name and object reference. Okay. What I can write? If here you can write code related to exception. You may write code related to reason, inform to the user why this exception is generated. You may inform to the user. Okay, fine. Again we will go to the our back, the same example. Okay, and here you know that main method and declare an array, and here I am writing one more statement, system dot out dot println now hello. Okay, fine, and now I will try to execute run file. Yes, negative array size exception, the program immediately terminated. Have you understood that it is a negative array size exception? The program is immediately terminated. And now, even I have written the hello here, it will not be executed. So how to write this? How to handle this? So I said that whatever the code may generate an exception, you may put that code in the try block. So I would like to put so these two statements in a try block. These two statements in a try block. Because these codes may generate an exception. If this code is successful, that's no problem. This statement also I need to print. Okay. If this code is wrong, I don't want this statement also. So that's why I kept both statements in a block called try block. If you have observed, it is a generating a red mark because try compulsory. Try alone can't work. Try with catch or try with finally. So it is a combination. It is an interview question also. Is the try alone will be work? No. You need to write try along with the catch or at least one catch or try along with the finally. So here I am writing catch of what type of exception it is. It is a negative array size exception. So you can write the exception name as negative. It is a class, so all the letters will be capital. Negative array size exception E. What I want to print here, just I would like to give some alert message, that is don't give, don't declare, just it is a alert message. An array with negative size. It is just in the catch what I have pointed, I didn't give much more. Just I am mentioned don't declare an array with the negative size. When this flow also you need to observe the flow. The flow also very important. So I can execute this application. So you know that the exception will be generated here. So immediately whenever the exception is generated here, the program will be stopped. But I am using the exception handler. So for this, is there any exception handler is there? Yes. We have given in the block called catch block negative array size only. So immediately the control will be stopped here and the control will go to the this statement. This catch block, what we have given, don't declare an array with the negative size. So it will be smoothly. Yes. Don't declare an array with the negative size. Instead of errors, so it will be, the program is not yet terminated abnormally. So instead of that, we are displaying a smooth message to the users. So many people thinking that exception handling which handles the runtime errors, that they feel that it will remove these errors. No, it can't remove. It can't change the negative 5 value with the positive value. Instead of that, it will not stop the flow. It will be stopped, but other code will be, other important code, whatever the code you have written in the catch block, and even you are continue with the program. Suppose after catch block, I want to write some code that will be also executed. Hello. Now you may check this. Don't declare an array with the negative size. Yes, I know that because of catch block and hello also. After that, everything will be smoothly executed, hello also printed. So please see this. If you are writing these line of statement here in the try block, it can't execute because the exception raised. What this exception raised? Immediately the control will go to where? When the exception is raised, then control go to corresponding catch block. Okay, and after that the remaining code followed by the catch block will be executed. Okay, so you can keep the summary of this application is, so try block, whatever the code will be generated an exception, you may put that code in the try block, and the relevant exception handler you may put in the catch block. So how can I write the catch up exception handler name, and this one, why it is showing in it? Yes, 2s will be there. Yes, and the remaining code will be, the syntax is try followed by catch or finally. Okay, this is the way for writing the simple exception handling code, and tomorrow we will continue with the try with the multiple catch blocks. Thank you, one and all.